Did you get the invoice? That was the first thing my daughter-in-law said to me when I finally reached her on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. Not hello. Not, how are you, Gerald? Just that. I told her I had. Good. The supplier needs payment by Friday, or they'll hold the next shipment. I said I would look into it. She hung up before I could ask the question I'd actually called about. I stood in my kitchen in Oakville for a long moment, phone still in my hand, looking out at the backyard I'd spent 30 years maintaining. The maple in the corner had gone fully red. Patricia would have called it beautiful. She's been gone 4 years, and sometimes I still catch myself turning to tell her things. The question I'd wanted to ask was simple. When is the grand opening? My son Trevor had been planning the opening of his wellness clinic, physiotherapy, and rehabilitation for nearly 2 years. Cedar Brook. It was supposed to be the culmination of everything. His training, his long hours under other practitioners, and the $340,000 I had contributed from the savings Patricia and I spent our entire working lives building. I didn't ask for a seat at the table. I didn't ask for my name on the door. I asked for one thing: keep me informed, not as an investor, as his father. For a while, he did. Sunday calls, photos, updates about renovations, equipment, staff. He was excited. Those were good months. Then his wife, Renata, took over the finances. She is organized, efficient. I don't doubt she loves Trevor. But after that, the calls shortened, then spaced out, then stopped, replaced by the occasional forwarded invoice and little else. I told myself this was normal. Businesses get busy. Sons grow into their own lives. But there is a difference between letting go and being pushed out. I was only beginning to understand which one was happening. The Friday after that call, I drove out to the clinic. First time in 3 months. Renata had said construction made visits disruptive. I respected that. The drive from Oakville to Hamilton took about 40 minutes. I found parking easily, walked toward the building, and stopped. There were plants in the window, framed artwork, a reception desk, people sitting with clipboards, and a sign above the door: Cedar Brook Wellness and Rehabilitation. The clinic was open, not newly opened, not last week. The sign had weathering, the plants had settled, the place had been operating. I stood on that sidewalk for a long time, doing the arithmetic of it. Then I went home. That evening, I called Trevor. Voicemail. I called again the next morning. Voicemail. He was sending me to voicemail. My own son. I waited a day before calling Renata. When did the clinic open? I asked. A small pause. The soft opening was about 6 weeks ago. We kept it low-key. Just family and close colleagues. I absorbed that. I wasn't invited. Trevor didn't want pressure. You know how he is. I do know how he is. Sensitive. Always has been. I spent years protecting him from unnecessary stress. I had never considered that my presence in his life would be categorized that way. Renata, I said, keeping my voice level, I put $340,000 into that clinic, and we're very grateful. Trevor will call you, she added. He didn't. I am not an impulsive man. Patricia used to say I could turn ordering dinner into a philosophical exercise, but deliberation is not passivity. As the days passed, I began to do what any reasonable person does when they suspect they're being managed rather than respected. I started paying attention. I pulled every record, every transfer, every email, every invoice. I had suggested a formal contract at the beginning. Trevor looked hurt. Dad, this is family. I felt small for asking. Now I understand that moment differently. What I had instead were emails. In those emails, Trevor referred to my contribution as an investment with family terms. No fixed repayment schedule, no formal interest, but I would be treated as a silent partner with the right to be informed of major milestones. The grand opening qualifies. So does everything that came after. Patterns started to appear. Invoices I didn't remember approving, a recurring consulting fee to a numbered company, a vague line item called business development. My money was still being drawn down. 11 consecutive months. I am not an accountant, but I taught mathematics for 31 years. Numbers have a logic, and this logic was telling me something I didn't want to hear. I called my old friend Douglas, a retired corporate lawyer. We met at a diner by the harbor. I laid everything out. He read quietly, then looked up. Do you know who owns that numbered company? I didn't. You should. I hired a bookkeeper. Carol. Retired. Careful. Discreet. She took 2 weeks. When she came back, she handed me 4 pages and a look I recognized from years of delivering difficult truths to parents. The numbered company receiving monthly consulting fees $2,800 a month was owned by Renata's brother, Paul. No clear qualifications tied to the clinic. No visible role. Over 11 months, that was over $30,000. Charged against the clinic. Against my investment. I did not call Trevor. Not yet. I needed the full shape of it. Through a contact, I reviewed the clinic's lease. What mattered was this. The personal guarantee was signed by Trevor alone. Not shared. Not distributed. If the clinic failed, the liability was his. I don't know if Renata understood that when she approved payments to her brother. I don't know what they discussed at home. What I know is my son was carrying risk he may not have fully understood, while money was being directed toward her family. I called him on a Sunday. He answered on the 5th ring. Dad. He sounded tired. I'd like to come by the clinic. Tuesday afternoon. A pause. Okay. I'd like Renata there. Another pause. I'll ask. Tuesday came. We sat in a small back office. Trevor looked like he hadn't slept. Renata looked composed. I placed the documents on the desk. I'd like to go through these. The conversation lasted 2 hours. Renata said Paul provided legitimate support during setup. Trevor said he didn't know the full extent of the payments. Renata said he did. Trevor said he signed off generally, not specifically. I didn't raise my voice. It wasn't about catching them in a lie. It was about watching my son realize in real time that the ground under his business and his marriage was not as solid as he thought. When it ended, I said one thing. I need this acknowledged formally. A full accounting. And a repayment plan for what was paid to Paul's company. Not because I needed the money. Because I needed to know we were operating honestly. Renata asked for time. I gave her 2 weeks. Trevor followed me outside. I'm sorry, Dad. I know you are. I didn't realize how much was going to Paul. I believed him. Trevor has always been the visionary. The one with ideas. The one who trusts others to handle details. It's a strength. It's also a vulnerability. That's something you need to fix, I told him. Not for me. For yourself. The 2 weeks passed. On a Thursday, I received a document from their accountant. Full accounting. Clear numbers. $34,200 in consulting fees to Paul's company. Attached was a repayment plan. Monthly installments. Over 18 months. Drawn from clinic revenue. I reviewed it with Douglas. It's fair, he said. I agreed with one condition. Any expenditure over $5,000 required my written acknowledgement. Renata agreed. She didn't sound pleased, but she agreed. After that, things changed slowly. Trevor and I resumed our Sunday calls. Shorter. More careful. But more honest. He told me the first few months had been difficult, that he'd been embarrassed to tell me, that he didn't want to disappoint me. I told him, a father who can't hear difficult news is not a father who can be trusted. I had always hoped to be trusted. I was never invited to the grand opening. I never stood at that door and shook hands with his colleagues. That moment was taken from me. I won't pretend it didn't matter. But in December, Trevor called. Would you come by for dinner? Just us? I said yes. We sat in the staff kitchen. Folding table. Takeout from the Lebanese place next door. A string of lights across the window. Simple. Quiet. Real. I thought about Patricia. About the years we saved. About what it means to invest in something. Money is the easy part. You gather it slowly and release it in one decision. The harder investment is the one you make in a person. Years of patience. Presence. Staying at the table even when the accounting becomes uncomfortable. Trevor looked at me across that table and said, "This wouldn't exist without you." And he didn't mean just the money. The clinic is doing well now. The repayments arrive on the 1st of every month. I visit on the 2nd Tuesday. We sit with coffee. He walks me through numbers. Occupancy. Equipment. Plans. He bought a new ultrasound machine in the spring. He called me before signing. That call was worth more than any grand opening. I am not a man who needs to be celebrated. I am a man who needs to be included. There is a difference. It took losing one to understand the other. If you've given to a child money, time, trust, and you've started to feel yourself being managed instead of respected, pay attention to that feeling. It is information. Ask the question. Read the document. Request the accounting. And if your child is worth believing in, and most are, they will sit across from you, even when it's uncomfortable. They will work through it with you. That's what family is. Not the absence of difficulty, the willingness to remain at the table when it arrives.